It's time to strap in and get ready for the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Dan and Dirk are live in the studio today, ready to hear from you at 402-573-0590.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue. Get over to Joe's Karting today. Do yourself right with a little indoor kart racing. And, Dirk, you had talked about the slick track races on those Tuesdays that they did, kind of an exclusive deal, and kind of hinted towards there's going to be a weekly series that is going to be coming. So get more information on that as we get a little bit closer to, I believe the start to that is in October.
I was thinking it was in September, but it could be as far back as October. There, I think what I saw was a 10 or 12 week league that they're going to do. So
they'll do October, November, and they're going to take December off, and then come back January and February. And they'll crown their champion at the end of February.
Well, that would probably be about 16 weeks then, unless they, maybe they'll skip like Thanksgiving weekend or somewhere around there. I'm not sure, but
more information coming on that, joeskarting.com. Again, karting with a K as always. Dirk and I are broadcasting from our mobile studio in our hotel room, and if you want to see how big of a motel budget we give ourselves, feel free to follow us on Facebook. We are live right now, recapping all the racing action from around the area, talking about what happened at Watkins Glen, the 410 Nationals, interviews. We've got so much more to do and so much more. And you can see us in all of our glory at 8:01 a.m., 4.5 to 5 hours after we went to sleep.
This motel's so big on the list of motels, even in the wonderful world of Des Moines, that the GPS brought us into the back door.
It's a great hotel. Listen, compared to the hotels we've stayed at, this is a good hotel. We have a bed, no crime scene,
separate beds.
So follow us on Facebook Live, and you can see as we do this. And when we're playing the audio for the interviews with the top three finishers, you won't be able to hear it on Facebook Live, so we do appreciate everybody tuning in to AM 590 ESPN Omaha. All right, let's talk a little bit about what happened over at Watkins Glen. But I just realized before we do that, we got to talk a little bit about the little information we have, what happened down at Shelby County Speedway. All we know, there was an incident involving two, I believe, hobby stock drivers, and one of them was life-flighted from the racetrack on last night.
Yeah, and again, that's all we've seen on Facebook. There was a name put on Facebook, but in the interest of the fact that we don't have any way of confirming any of the information, we're going to leave that out. But
yeah, and by the way, people on Facebook, you got to be really careful about the names you throw out there, because if you're wrong, then there's a family member of that person that thinks that their family member is hurt, and you throw them into a panic, and you leave yourself open, although it's a slim chance, to a lawsuit. Now, we're a lot larger of an entity than some jackwagon on Facebook, but so we got to be careful with what we say. We have names, but we don't want to say anything. And you definitely don't want to say anything until all the family members have been notified that their loved one has been injured. And we don't have an update as of this morning. Shelby County Speedway has not posted any kind of official statement. So all we could say is please send your thoughts and prayers to the driver that was hurt last night at Shelby County Speedway. Sounds like he's going to need them to get through this tough time. So
we saw a lot of this in the spring when we had dual incidents the one night down at Adams County and also at Eagle Raceway. I mean, people were posting that people had died and all kinds of things like that. And if you can't confirm something, don't bother throwing it out there.
But it's okay to trash the major media when they do the exact same thing you did. Anyways, hey, we're talking racing. So thoughts and prayers go out to the drivers that were hurt last night at Shelby County Speedway. So there's that. But make sure you send out your thoughts and prayers. All right, we were at Watkins Glen last weekend for the NASCAR Cup Series. And
We were?
Well, we weren't. They were. We were sitting at home watching it, as we do. But, boy, Chase Elliott all of a sudden becoming a road course a stronghold.
Well, he has literally found something at that racetrack that, 2 years in a row. And this year, pretty much like last year, him and Martin Truex were the top cars in the field, they ran nose to tail or within 0.4 of a second of each other. The last, was it 22 or 23 laps, they went green the other day, and it was about the same type of deal last year. But I personally think he's got something figured out with the transmission gear ratios, is what is giving him that boost, that acceleration. You know, they showed every time they went up the hill through the S's that he walked away from Martin Truex. And you've got a shift point in there. So I do believe it's something that he's got figured out in the transmission.
He ends up winning Stage 1 and Stage 2 along with the win, so he takes home 60 points on the day. My pick, Martin Truex Jr., finished third in Stage 1, second in Stage 2, 52 points on the day. Those are your two big points getters. Pretty even as it went down the line. Third place was the third points getter, fourth place was the fourth points getter, except Ryan Blaney, who finished ninth in Stage 2, didn't finish in the top 10 in Stage 1, 31 points on the day, finished fifth, 34 points on the day. Kevin Harvick had a little bit better of a day, finishing third in Stage 2, finished seventh on the day.
But Blaney was one of the cars that I do believe went to the back for a failed inspection. There was a whole handful of those guys, and several of them came up through the field and made interesting runs. Kyle Busch was not one of those cars, but he came through the field a couple different times due to various incidents.
Yeah, had a dust-up with William Byron and Bubba Wallace. And apparently both of them, all three of those drivers have met in individual incidences and have met while at Michigan today and have hashed things out just a little bit. But I love Bubba's gusto. And when William, too, you know, it's kind of eye-opening a little bit to be talking about Kyle Busch as kind of one of the veterans in the sport. He's the old guy now. He's the guy that's 10 to 12 years from retirement. He's kind of one of these guys that when William came into the league, he looked up to him. And William and Bubba and Kyle Larson, they've got to get their respect from these guys. And that's one way you do it on the racetrack is you don't take anything from them. You don't let them push you around.
William Byron did it via Chad Knaus.
Yeah.
Chad Knaus pretty much said if you don't do it, you're a weenie or something to those kind of words.
Well, I think he said if you don't do it, I'm going to go down there and do it myself.
But, I mean, William Byron didn't do it very well because he took the brunt of the damage when he was trying to retaliate. And his retaliation was also under caution, which is never a good thing.
Yeah.
And Bubba Wallace's deal was racing. I mean, that was green flag racing when that happened.
Yeah.
But sure got a roar from the crowd when he spun Busch out.
Yeah. And I think that, unfortunately, I would have preferred he did it a little bit harder so there would have been some damage to that 18 car so he wouldn't have gotten so many points on the day. But I think he did it the right way. He spun him out to send him a message, but he didn't damage the car.
Well, I don't think he intentionally did not damage the car. I think, that had a little bit to do with Kyle's driving ability. A lesser driver might have ended up in the wall.
Yeah.
But
Chase Elliott ends up getting the win. Martin Truex Jr. second, Denny Hamlin third, Eric Jones fourth, and Ryan Blaney your top five. Listen to this. How many times are we going to do this in the top 10? Matt DiBenedetto. Matty D getting a good top 10 finish. He comes home in sixth.
And the second road course in a row where he's run right up there.
Kevin Harvick seventh, Kyle Larson eighth, Brad Keselowski ninth, and Kurt Busch rounds out your top 10. Bad days, Daniel Hemrick 35th, Ryan Preece 36th, Austin Dillon 31st, Bubba Wallace 28th. Bubba had a good run going most of the day, until later on when, did he have an incident? I think he finished on the lead lap.
On the carousel. He ended up in the tires on the carousel.
Ryan Newman 25th, Joey Logano 23rd, Clint Bowyer 20th, Jimmy Johnson 19th. Jimmy Johnson,
who also ended up in the tires on the carousel.
Jimmy Johnson fighting for his playoff life. I think if I look at the points, though, he is in right now. No, he is. Yeah, he is in, sitting 14th in the point standings. Pretty good advantage over 16th place Clint Bowyer right now. So.
Yeah, but there's a couple. I mean, Bowyer could win a race, and that would knock him down almost 2 notches because he'd pass him plus lose the cushion of having Bowyer behind him. So
right now he has a this point standings thing on NASCAR.com is not very clear, which is a little confusing. Anyways, so that's the way that rolls out. The results from Watkins Glen last weekend. And let's take a quick break. We're going to give ourselves just a little bit of time. We're going to come back and talk about our thoughts from the 410 Nationals at Knoxville Raceway, presented by NOS Energy. And then we'll come back at turn number 3. We'll play you interviews from the top 3 finishers, and then we'll wrap the show up by talking about previewing today's race at Michigan and Saturday night's race at Bristol. Don't forget, if you want to follow us on Facebook Live, you're welcome to interact with us. You can always post comments, thoughts, and anything you want to talk about. We will address as long as it is radio friendly. We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the front stretch.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around their professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole of the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Located on Mid-America Drive in Council Bluffs.
Dan and Dirk are rolling into turn 2 with a little attitude on the front stretch.
I don't know. We got some sort of tude. I don't know if it's attitude. Welcome back to the front stretch.
It's lack of sleepitude.
That's going to be a fun drive back, isn't it? By the way, I hear it's raining pretty heavily back home, so it's going to be fun to drive through that on our way back. Anybody heading back from the Knoxville Nationals, make sure you drive safely on the way back. Good morning, PJ. Good morning, Kevin Presky. Joining us on Facebook, Lori Dixon, Jack Dover's mom, Mike Molnar. Crew chief for Justin Gregg, modified driver. Welcome, everybody. And,
People, get a life.
No, we need them to watch our show so we get more sponsors and we can keep doing this stuff. And maybe we can have an actual mobile studio rather than broadcasting live from a hotel room.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're sitting there watching two guys sit in a motel room and talk on the radio.
Hey, at least we have clothes on. That's one thing you don't
That's
have
a
to worry.
switch.
That's yeah. Okay, caution flag wave, and we're going to reset this baby. So, Dirk, we've been to the Knoxville Nationals for a couple of years now. Good morning, Stan. And everybody that's tuning in on AM 590, we appreciate your guys' tuning in and support. We've been coming to the Knoxville Nationals for a couple of years now. First year we came, did we come for the 3 days or just the 2 days, Friday and Saturday?
We came 2 days is what we did.
And we were a little bit frustrated with the ability for us to have access to drivers, to get autographed items, to give away on the show, to do interviews. So we cut it back to 1 day. And we got over here yesterday, about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock? I think it was about 2:30.
2:30, I think, is about the time we got to the track.
And as soon as we walked in, first off, that fajita open grill thing right as you walk in, holy Hannah, was that amazing. By the way, if you're not friends with me on Facebook, check out some of the pictures I posted of some food that I got to eat just yesterday. It's going to be a rough ride back. But anyways, car about loaded today. But we were walking down the row of champions. And I said it right away. Boy, they have sure added a lot of stuff this year. And there was a lot more vendors.
Oh, a ton of vendors. They had the last – I don't remember them having it the first year where they had the sprint car ride, the simulator deal.
The iRacing rig.
And I remember they had one the second year. I counted 4 yesterday.
Yeah, there was iRacing brought in a trailer that had sprint car chassis, and you just walked in a line. And then there was another one that was a little bit farther down, along with a late model also.
Yeah, those two were separate, but the one was 2 sprint cars. And from what I checked out, I turned and took a pretty good look on the screens. Those 2 guys got to race against each other.
Oh, really?
So that would have been kind of cool if you were there with a buddy.
And I think the thing about the Knoxville Nationals, everyone obviously knows the big things. It's one of the biggest sprint car paying races. Brings the biggest names.
It is the biggest sprint car race far as I know, in the world.
But the thing I've always loved about the Knoxville Nationals is it's more than just race night.
Oh, it's like I told you the very first time I went was when I did the show. I mean, this was my 5th year in a row now, but I was very impressed. All the hype that I'd heard about for this place is there. It's real. It's no imagination thing. And
it's not just a Thursday, Friday, Saturday show. You literally can spend, I think John Sperano has spent 10 days in the Knoxville area. He came over
for the
Thursday of the 360 Nationals and has been enjoying it ever since. And there is so much to do each and every day. And we're not just talking about touring the local area. My girlfriend always loved going over to Pella and seeing the historic stuff over there. But for racing fans, when it kicks off on Thursday, the 360 Nationals, there is literally a race every single day within a 20 to 30-minute drive of Knoxville if it's not at Knoxville Raceway. There's the Capitani Classic at Knoxville Raceway on Sunday, and then they race at Oski on Monday. I can't remember where they race on Tuesday, but then there's practice on Wednesday, and then qualifying for the 410 Nationals on Thursday and Friday.
Qualifying starts on Wednesday.
Okay.
Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday's if you screwed up Wednesday and Thursday night.
But then even, which by the way Kyle Larson did.
And didn't show up on Friday.
And didn't, he wasn't, his schedule wasn't able to get him back over here to be able to do his cup duties and to play in the dirt a little bit. But getting a little bit sidetracked, you're walking in to Knoxville Raceway and you get into the main gates and there's all the merchandise, which it seemed to be like there was twice as many trailers for merchandise this year. Not just drivers, but also sponsors that had merchandise available. I did see the Kansas Speedway tent, so they were kind of poking into the area just a little bit and taking care of some of the dirt track fans. And then they had a live stage where they had Speed Vision and Sprint Car Unlimited and Lucas Oil TV doing their individual broadcasts. MAV TV had a broadcast booth set up. Racing Boys had their trailer set up, and they were doing live interviews and streaming stuff like we're doing this morning. There was just a lot more atmosphere this year.
Well, and then to our surprise, anywhere, at least my surprise, I don't know if you knew about it, but they had, who was it, FEP, had the media center tied up with a promotional deal that they had for, their vendors. So we went there to try and get in and sign in like we always do, and we were in the wrong building, so they'd moved to a smaller building for the media center. And evidently they had done that at one other event. She told me, she goes, we've already done this once this year. And I was like, oh. And she said, this will probably be permanent.
Yeah, FVP threw a lot of money at
and it smelled good in there.
And it's beginning to feel a lot like a NASCAR event. And there's a little bit of reason behind that, and we can get to it in a minute. But with FVP renting Dyer Hudson Hall and taking it over for their vendors and their employees, and to be able to do, probably did a meet and greet with Brian Brown, who was their driver, and they did a fantastic job. They built an atmosphere for their clients and their vendors, and they created an exclusive opportunity, which is a big selling point throughout the year for them. So there was just a lot more that was going on, and I congratulated Kendra Jacobs, who is the marketing director for Knoxville Raceway, is the real reason why 5-Hour Energy was involved with it. Toyota got involved for a few years there, and now NOS Energy is involved. She's bringing all that money, and quite frankly, she's bringing Rico Abreu and Kyle Larson and Jeff Gordon and Casey Kane. And Casey probably would have been there anyways, but she has a lot of Cup Series experience with what she's been doing with her professional and her business, and so she's been inviting these NASCAR drivers to come down, and they're having a great time. Now they're bringing their friends, and now they're buying race teams, and now they're sponsoring cars. And I mean, Exalta was on the winning car last night. You got to imagine Jeff Gordon being there had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's some type of deal he probably gave an intro to and stuff like that. Or they might have approached Jeff and asked him, hey, we want to get into this. Where should we go?
Yeah.
And, of course, going to the Jason Johnson,
41 car.
Iconic car, would be a no-brainer in that situation.
My frustration with the race again, and this is just something that I think it's going to be an evil that we're going to have to deal with, that it's not really something that has a good solution, but we raced 5 races last night in 4.5 hours. I think the races started at 7:30, Or at least hot laps started at 7:30. Maybe the first green flag waved at 8.
The first green flag was a few minutes after 8, 8:08 or 8:10, something like that. And actually, the very first race was an E feature that was 10 laps long and went green to checkered.
Yeah.
So it took about 6 minutes. So by 8:15 or after 8:15, we had 4 races to go, and it was it was close to 11:30, I think, when we finally threw the last checker.
And for me, it's kind of frustrating because I want to see a little more action on the racetrack. Now, it wasn't wait an hour race. They had hot laps for the C features, the D features, the B features, and the A features. I realize I did that a little backwards, but whatever, it's Iowa. And so those drivers that were in those transfer positions or in the A feature got an opportunity to work on their car, tune the engine just a little bit, feel out the track just a little bit. So there was something going on. And the racetrack did a pretty good job with driver intros and kind of the atmosphere of it. But it's still a little frustrating when you look at it on the very surface and you say 5 races, 4 hours. But it is what it is, I think, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I mean, they do all kinds of stuff with the driver intros. I mean, they do individual driver intros, but they have the guys posing for pictures. So instead of just saying their name and having them walk by the stage, they're up there for a minute getting some pictures, and then they take every third or fourth one and do a little interview on the side with them. And, it's a big production. I want to go back just 1 second to where we talked about this being an event. Mm-hmm. It amazes me. They don't have a ton of seating out in that fan walk area.
Yeah.
They've got a couple benches here and there. And we got here, like I said, it was between 2:30 and 3 after we had parked 4.5 miles away. No, it wasn't that far, but
it was only 3.5.
Yeah. The parking, it's a in-town deal. Even in a small town, the parking is lacking.
Well, it's College World Series Rosenblatt style.
Yeah, pretty close. Except at least they had a big parking lot.
Yeah, you gave a guy $20 or $10 or $5 depending on how far you parked, and you parked in his yard.
Yeah, which is exactly what we did. And but as we're walking up, there are people sitting out, and it was very muggy yesterday. I think we were upper 80s with a mid 90s heat index.
Yeah,
and there are people just sitting there, and you can't get in the grandstands, I don't think, till after 5. So they were sitting there for 2.5 or 3 hours, just sitting there. I don't know if they were people watching or came over for, like you said, some of the fantastic food. They got that ribeye sandwich joint. Mm-hmm. Of course, they're an Iowa racetrack, so they got pork tenderloins for days. And I know you've had those with a scoop of mac and cheese on them.
Bacon, mac and cheese.
My arteries won't take that, so I haven't tried that yet.
Have you seen my belly yet lately? It didn't take it very well. I had to go on a pretty strict diet in the off-season.
But, yeah, I mean, and they feed you well in the media center here. I mean, they had a huge baked potato bar at lunch, and then they served a big taco and nacho bar for dinner.
It is an event. I mean, it's a huge event, and you could literally get here at 10 o'clock in the morning. You could go over to Slideways Karting Center and do a little bit of racing. You could go to Dingus, which is right across the street from Knoxville, which is a legendary bar that people have stumbled in and out of for decades. We did not this time, by the way. PJ asked us if we hit up Dingus on Facebook.
We did walk by and have a quick conversation with the bouncer as he was sitting outside sweating, saying, "Oh, but it's beautiful out. There's a nice breeze." I'm looking. It looks like he's been standing in the shower because he's sweating so much. But yeah, but the temperature actually, like I say, it wasn't that bad. And there was a little bit of a breeze. I got lucky during the races and went and sat in turns 3 and 4 in the bleachers in the infield. And the breeze was at our back, so the dust that was coming off the track didn't come blowing your face. That was a switch here. But
second straight year they sold the Knoxville Nationals out, and I think it's always kind of a weird number, but it is what it is. 20,322 tickets sold. That's the official capacity for Knoxville Raceway. 20,322 tickets.
They must have taken some seats out, because last year the capacity for that number was a little bigger.
It was a couple of years ago. They reduced this. They took out some seats because they expanded the
butt room.
Right. The ever-growing American Fanny, yes, requires more seats. It's because NASCAR is dying when they do it. Knoxville is thriving when they do it.
Well, I figured they did it because the Cornhuskers did it.
Everyone's got to do it now. You can't fit in that 40-inch seat anymore. You need the 60-inch seat. We need the high-definition seat. But what a great event. I mean, I really am kind of envious of John Sperano, who I've been following on Facebook and posts pictures, and it's a family event for him.
Quote of the day.
And they've got, there's quite a bit of drinking involved, but there's also a family day involved, and it's something that this is exactly what the race community is about. It's events. It's not, let's just show up to a baseball game, have a hot dog and a beer, and kind of chat and enjoy the game. It's an all-day event. It's creating so many memories, and this is exactly why you come to this place, and you're driving through this little town on this little 4-lane road, which shouldn't be a 4-lane road in any other town. It should be a 2-lane road with a middle lane turning. And all of a sudden, this mecca explodes. I mean, it could rival some NASCAR tracks, and maybe someday it will be a NASCAR track with a NASCAR race on it. But for now, it's the sprint car capital of the world. And what you're going to see in September for the late model nationals is a toned down version of it, but they're doing a great job building that up too. It is such an amazing event that if you haven't done it yet, you've missed out on another opportunity. And next year, the 60th anniversary of the NOS Energy Knoxville Nationals is going to be bigger. And they've done an amazing job building it from the 58th to the 59th. I can't wait to see what they do for the 60th.
Well, they've already mentioned one thing, that they're going to have $1,000 lap money during the race. So it's going to be possible to bank $200,000 for driving around in a circle in the dirt. That's... it's freaky when you think about it, and just think about if they'd have had that money last night for David Gravel.
Yeah.
He'd have banked at least $30,000 on the lap money.
Yep. Because we don't want to ruin it too much because we want to get into turn 3 and play the interviews and kind of the recap of the race. But Mike Mulliner says Nebraska mini sprint racer Ellen Cook was Miss Congeniality at the Miss Knoxville pageant. That's kind of cool.
Okay. Yeah, they and those gals, I got to notice, and I've noticed it the last couple of years when they're doing their things, because they introduce them once, and then they have them come out for the driver intros, and then they have them back in the media center for the press conference and stuff. They're always in a different dress.
Mm-hmm. Really?
And they're gowns.
Yeah.
It's not like they're just grabbing a summer dress off the rack. These are, like I'm in the Miss America pageant gowns.
Yeah.
So.
Did you see the NOS Energy girls?
No, I did not, but I can only imagine.
I saw them for you.
Did you?
Twice.
You ogled? That's all you got?
Can't wait to get home to Sarah. I'm going to be in deep trouble now. Something tells me I'm going home to a cold house after that comment. But, typical energy drink girls. They're beautiful girls that spend their time and their profession looking beautiful.
Well, and those gals do a lot of work, too. I mean, I've seen the Monster Energy girls at the racetrack. And those gals are spending several hours a day in the gym.
Yeah.
They have to.
And they got to look beautiful in hot, dirty, dusty conditions, and they do a great job doing it. Good at what they do. Anyways, let's take a break. We're going to come back at turn number 3. We're going to play interviews from the top 3 finishers, kind of recap the official results from the race and our thoughts as the race unfolded. We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the front stretch.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Thank you so much, everybody, tuning in on AM 590 and on Facebook Live. If you haven't done so yet, you can follow us on Facebook Live, and you can ask your questions. Bob Kroger says, "Oh, Dan, you're working in your socks." We have to keep the air conditioner back here going because otherwise it gets really, really hot in the room, and so it's a delicate balance. I'm actually freezing right now, but if we were to turn that thing off, it would get hot pretty quickly.
Yeah, Bob, you'd like it here. It's kind of like a meat locker, you know.
Yeah.
Right up your alley, Bob.
And I got my clean socks on for today's show, so be grateful for that, little Bob. And Bob's commenting on Facebook Live.
Thank you, Sarah, for Dan's clean socks. Trying to get you back in the good graces there,
yes.
buddy.
I do the laundry at the house, not her. And there I do it again. I just went ahead and dug my hole again. So the results from last night, I don't know what I did with my notepad, where I wrote down all of my notes. So this is going to be a fun return. But anyways, so the results from last night's 410 started off with an E feature. Top 6 ended up transferring out of the E because they had a couple of scratches from the D feature. Top 4 out of the D onto the C, and so on and so forth. And I'm trying to remember the 4 drivers that moved out of the B. I know one of them was Donnie Schatz, who ended up finishing 9th. No surprise there.
Rico.
Yep, Rico. And Rico smacked the wall late in the race and ended up retiring and not making it much farther than that. Did Dominic Scelzi? He may have started.
Yep, I think he's one that came out of the B.
Gio Scelzi started outside row 11, and I think Dominic started in the B, so I think he made it out. And then there was one more, and I apologize, I can't remember who made it out, but that's a long ways to go. I mean, that B was a 22-lap feature, and then you've got probably, what do you say, about 30 minutes, 45 minutes to make any adjustments, tweak on your with which is not too bad for that kind of a race.
Well, with all that's where we talked about the spectator show that they put on with the driver's announcements and everything. It's a good 20 minutes and close to a half an hour that you've got. They if we go back a little bit, back into the E feature, our guest from a couple weeks ago, Brody, was in the E feature, and he'd had some engine trouble with the 410. So he had dropped his 360 back in, and actually for running a whole bunch of horsepower down, he did a great job and definitely did not embarrass himself when he went out in the E feature. I think he started 6th and ended up with taking home a 9th place finish, with a whole bunch less horsepower. It was, fairly impressive. We had a nice little chat. He was really having a good time, even though he had no luck. He was still very happy. Another one of our guests previously was in the C feature, Thomas Kennedy out of Canada, who's won a bunch of races at I-80 in the 360s. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, and I didn't even try to go talk to him. Let's put it that way, because when they went to the cool-down lap, he went into the pit area so quick. He didn't even tootle around the track in a cool-down lap.
Well, he had fought for the transfer position and had it with about 2 to go, and then he didn't.
Yeah, well, he dropped 3 spots in the last 2 laps, and there wasn't anything apparently wrong on the car. So whether he just ran out of tire or exactly what happened, I don't know. And like I said, when he disappeared off the track or the cool-down lap, I was in the infield, was going to go chat with him for a second. But I said, no, he's not happy. Last thing he wanted to do is talk to anybody. And then somebody posted a nice picture of him. I don't know if anybody else has seen it on Facebook, where he's actually in his, I don't know if it's him in the car, but somebody's in the car and they're pushing him down the highway to go get loaded up somewhere. They didn't even bring his equipment up.
And thank you, Stan Caesar on Facebook Live gave us that correction. It was Gio Scelzi that came out of the B, and the final car to come out of the B, we mentioned it was Rico Abreu, Donnie Schatz, Gio Scelzi, and then the final one was a 9 of James McFadden, who he was kind of an interesting story going into that feature, into that B feature, because he had issues on his hot laps, and so they changed that motor in the pits, which that's a tough thing to do when you have your hauler and your toter and all of your equipment. They don't have their haulers and their equipment. They have a toolbox and some spare parts, and apparently they had a spare engine sitting around because they swapped that engine out with the help of about 6 or 8 other crews. There was the Napa Auto Parts guys were over there. I know I can't remember who the other driver was that we saw run. Corey Eliason ran over there and was helping out, changing stuff. They were changing everything out, and they got that engine completely pulled out, new engine in, hooked up, and ready to be pushed off in about 15 minutes.
Well, they probably went over with one of the billions of pit vehicles that were down there and grabbed the engine out of the hauler while they were disconnecting and starting to pull the engine that was in the car. But yeah, they did an amazing job. They were flying on that thing. But everybody had a job. It's and I mean the 49 and the 9 are both Casey King cars, so they might practice that thing back at the shop or something.
Yeah.
But that was amazing how fast they did that.
And then so congratulations to him being able to get that engine swapped out and being able to transfer out of the B to one of the biggest races in the sprint car world. And he ends up, James McFadden, with a brand new healthy engine, ends up finishing 8th on the day. Good day for him. Top 10 finishers, Gio Scelzi in the finishes 10th, Donnie Schatz. Schatz was coming out of the B. Solid run through the B. Expected that fully, even though I bet with some people up in the booth that I was hanging out in that he wouldn't make it out of the B because I have some.
You bet?
I did. I bet I lost $1. I mean, I'm not going to be betting the house.
Did you pay it?
I did. I paid out. I did, absolutely. Donnie, early on in that race, actually ended up losing power and bringing out the second caution of the night early in the first 25 laps, and ended up being a throttle linkage breakage, and they kept kind of going back and forth trying to figure out what was wrong with it. You mentioned it too. You heard something about fuel, and when you mentioned that last night / this morning when we got back to the hotel room, that reminded me that they were talking about a fuel line that had become disconnected, but then the reporter said, no, we're confirming it is a fuel linkage issue. They got it repaired. They got him pushed back out and back off, and he actually ended up tagging the back of the field as the green came back out.
Well, and I can see where the confusion would come there because he's stepping on the gas pedal and nothing's happening with the engine. It's not picking up any RPM. So he might have thought that there was a fuel line gone. It's not getting any gas,
right.
Mm-hmm. But they figured out what it was. They were able to get it fixed back up. So he went back, and I think he restarted either 23rd or 24th. I'm not sure because they did have one guy that the white 41 car. I can't remember who was in that had
Dominic Scelzi.
That was Scelzi, and that one that had the problem earlier, mm-hmm. and just like 2 laps in or something like that. But Schatz slowly picked his way through the field. Ended up with a 9th place finish,
yep.
And would have, had this been given a 100-lap race, had a chance to get on the podium.
Oh, yeah. He was coming. 8 fast, too. James McFadden, we talked about, finished in the 8th spot. Sheldon Hodenschild in 7th. Brad Sweet, last year's winner, 6th. Started up at the front, just didn't seem to have that good of a car.
Well, that's where he started at, was 6th. And he went backwards a little bit in the first 25 laps. I think he actually ran as low as 9th. Ended the first 25 in 5th, came back out, and very quickly in like the first or second lap, took over the 4th position. And from then it was kind of a debacle the last 10 laps. He lost a couple spots.
Aaron Reitzel in 5th, Tim Katie in 4th, and let's hear from Darren Pittman, our 3rd place finisher. Great interview with Darren. We caught up with him post-race in the media center and said to Darren, we'd listened to quite a few interviews at that time with Darren, and he was obviously unhappy about his 3rd place
finish.
Very
candid.
But it's tough to be sad about a 3rd place finish at the Knoxville Nationals, but he felt like he could have had more.
Yeah, honestly, we want to win, but honestly, I just feel like we should have ran 2nd. Made too many mistakes as a driver, and then had some things happen in front of us on the last lap that cost us 2nd, which is $30,000 to the.
You want that beer now?
Yeah. So that part's frustrating, but it's part of the game. He did a good job, and congratulations to David. And they put out a solid effort all week, and I honestly thought they were going to be the car to beat, going into tonight. So proud of our effort, our Roth Motorsports team, and I think we were, on pace to contend for a win. I just made too many mistakes. So got to clean those up, but I'm optimistic that we know how to get our car capable of winning here, and we'll just keep working on it to try to improve and try to come back next year and get better.
You mentioned in your post-race conversation with the media center that in the past you've not been able to get your car to work like you've seen previous winners. What adjustments did you make to your car or to your driving style that helped that tonight?
Yeah, everything. I mean, it's just a lot. We're nowhere close. It's different race cars. So, I mean, I've obviously been with some great race teams over the years, but, we just never had the right balance here. And so I'm in totally different equipment, which I think, may play a part of that. But, setup-wise, we're just a lot different than I've ever been here and stuff that I've never had success doing but seems to work here. So we just kind of keep fine-tuning on a little bit. I think we are close. At least I know that we're on pace and can see the guys up front. And, we passed last year's champion and we're one of the fastest cars on the racetrack at some parts of that race. So we've just got to figure out how to do it for an entire 50.
Did you make any drastic changes at the break?
We made none, honestly. We put new tires on, put fuel in it, and my crew chief that our plan was to talk about our race car and how to make it maybe a little bit better. We had an ignition box come unmounted from the dash, and he spent his entire time trying to fix that and remount it, which he did, and we never even talked about my race car. So 3 minutes is a really short time. And we never once even spoke about how my car was or what to do to improve it. We put new tires on that were the exact same stagger and pushed back off.
Ignition box is semi-important.
You do need it hooked up, and it hadn't failed. It had just come unzootz from the dash and it fell down. And if the other one had came off, it would have been a big problem. We probably would have pulled a wire out or something and fell out. But his time was consumed with that, and so, like I said, it might have been a blessing that we weren't able to screw our car up because I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how many times have drivers talked about overthinking it and just walking their way right out of a good finish?
Yeah, I do it weekly. So not being able to touch it or think about making any changes definitely I don't think hurt us. I do still think at the end of the 50 laps, I'm not mad that we didn't make any changes. I honestly don't know that there's anything that we could have done to make my car any better. I just would have liked to have some of my decisions behind the wheel back to, I think would have put us in a better position.
Experience wins these races quite a bit, though, and you're starting to get it. Do you feel like you guys are you're starting to get it? You've only been doing this for, 20 years now?
Yeah. It's been a while. This is my 17th A-main start. So, we've been doing it a long time and just haven't been close. But some guys just take more naturally to certain tracks than others, and this has definitely, been one that I never have. I mean, I've won at Oskaloosa 4 times. I've never won here. So Oskaloosa pays $5,000. It pays $150 here. I just, I can win at Williams Grove. It's one of my best racetracks. It's just not the Knoxville Nationals. So we want to get better here, and I'm happy that I think we're on the right path.
How about you give us thank you to some of the people that make it easy for you to get here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing is Dennis and Teresa giving me the opportunity to drive their car, and our performances all year long haven't been amazing. We've had some ups and downs, and it's a tough, cutthroat sport. So, honestly, you never know. He's liable to be very happy or liable to be upset with our third-place finish. But I'm proud of it, and, I couldn't be here without them giving me the opportunity to run an equipment that is capable of winning these races. So hopefully we can finish out the year strong and that I can stay here and be in the 83 car another year.
Darren Pittman with a nice third-place finish. Good payday there, but like he kind of talked about, he lost that one spot, and that was $30,000 going away. That's... How many times in your life do you ever, or can you ever watch that amount of money just disappear?
Well, me
with
personally,
a mistake?
Yeah, in the matter of, one 18-second lap on a racetrack, yeah,
right.
And no, that's definitely out of my monetary bracket. Let's put it that way.
Logan Schuchart finished in the second position, and a good run for him. Logan came out of starting 22nd all the way up to second. I think he was easily the Cinderella story of the night.
Oh, well, if the pole winner hadn't won, he would have been because, talk about rooting for the underdog. But, Logan came through the field. I mean, methodically. He didn't pass 10 cars on the first lap and 10 cars on the second lap and run around in second place. He just picked them off, and he got Pittman on the last lap, to go from third to second. And that's, like I said, what Darren said that he was a little upset with himself on. He admitted it. He owned up to that. I made a mistake. Cost the team $30,000, but
a great run for Logan, and I love Logan's story. I talked about it a little bit when we're talking to him, because when we originally met him was when they came for the World of Outlaws race at I-80 Speedway, and they were such a low-budget World of Outlaw team that I always like rooting for the underdog. And to see him he didn't start top couple of rows and hold his spot. He made his way through the field, which is tough to do on any feature night, but this is the strongest of the strong that you'll ever meet in a sprint car race. The top 22, the 22, 24 cars that started this field are easily the toughest competitors you'll ever face in a sprint car race. We talked about it. It said you got to be tired. You got to be tired after coming to second after starting 22nd.
I usually wouldn't be tired, but I broke a power steering line with about 3 or 4 laps to go, and that made me tired. So anybody that says you don't need to work out to drive a sprint car, maybe not most of the time, but when that kind of stuff happens, you definitely do. So I'm just happy we held on. We were able to, get by Darren there that last few laps. Had a little bit of help from the lap cars, slowing him up a little bit, but there's happy seconds and there's sad seconds, and the Kings Royal was definitely a bummer, but to start 22nd, run it the whole way up to second here at Knoxville Nationals is pretty awesome. So I hope we can. They say you got to run second before you can win these things, so I hope we can get up here one of these years and win this.
Yeah, it's every couple of years somebody in the back figures this track out in this A feature. 2 years ago it was Kyle Larson, came out of the B, and he ended up with 4th or 5th. He didn't make the podium, but right there. Was there anything you saw watching, like the B feature or the C feature or anything that gave you a hint what you needed to do?
Today's day and age, you can watch Dirk Vision, try and learn from that, and I try to do that. I feel like it can help you in certain ways, but there's nothing better than seat time, and a race car driver learns by racing by what you feel, under your seat, and there's laps that we've had this week. I didn't feel good. I tried to race off a notebook earlier in the week, and the racetrack just wasn't the same. It didn't give me the same type of feedback, and I didn't feel as good. So we changed some things. We talked with ourselves, talked with my grandpa, talked with my team, and made the changes that we needed to make, and it made us that much better. So it definitely gives you confidence in you coming back here next time. I feel like we have if the racetrack's similar, I feel like we have what we need to run really well.
It's got to give you confidence when you come back for the 60th running, because a lot of times the Knoxville Nationals is a lot about setting the cards up for the big game and for the Saturday night. You started off in a hole, and you drove your way all the way to the front, so if you're able to start somewhere around 10th, you should be easily a champion, right?
I don't know about that one, but we'll definitely like to start up front if we can one of these times. Make it through our qualifying night. I haven't done it yet, so definitely that's one of the top goals next year is make it through that qualifying night and make it easier on ourselves to start up there. So I feel like we definitely have the car to do that. It's a special year, the 60th anniversary of this race. 30th of my grandfather winning this race back in 1990. So next year would be an awesome one to win and a special one for our team. So hopefully we can come back swinging.
It's been kind of neat for me to watch you over the last couple of years, because we talked about before we went on the mic having you on a few years ago just before you raced at I-80. And I loved walking through the pits at I-80 and seeing your trailer, because it wasn't the fanciest of looking trailers. I mean, it looked like an old farm shop with just dirty parts and just it was your good old – we're holding it together with gum and duct tape, and now you're sitting on a podium finish at Knoxville.
Hey, I'm really proud of that, farm trailer, whatever you want to call it. It was brand new in 1980 or whatever it was. My grandfather used it, and we upgraded from that and built our own trailer here in 2017 from the help of Joey Allen, Jack Eckert, and my grandfather's design. And it's what our team's all about. You got special people all around that have built it up throughout the years, and that's why we're here where we are. So it's special to me, and that we built it from the ground up, and we continue to build it, and we plan to be here for a long time and to continue to keep getting better, and I hope we can do that.
Make sure you thank some of those guys that helped you get from 22nd to 2nd.
Yeah, like I said, Dryden Performance Products, definitely, that's a big help to us in our race team, NGK Spark Plugs, and the guys that make it happen. Ron Helmick, Ben Whitman, my grandfather, Tyler Lucky, Bill Klingbeil, Joey Allen, Jack Eckert, Michael Newman Racing Engines, FK Shocks, Triple X, Eaton Chassis, DMI Parts. We have a great race car, great race team, and a lot of great people that work on them.
I've been watching you do a lot of the interviews tonight. Everyone's excited because you're kind of the Cinderella story coming from 22nd to 2nd. You're giving a lot of people a lot of credit, but you're not giving yourself very much credit. I mean, that's a heck of a job coming that far back.
I'm definitely proud of it. I love racing. I love what I get to do. I'm confident in myself, but I was taught as a kid to stay humble, and I believe in that. So, but I really believe in the great race team that I have and the people behind me, and I stay humble because of them and what they give me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them, and I probably wouldn't even got a chance at a lot of this stuff if it wasn't for them. So I stand behind them, and we're, like I said, we continue to work at it and get better, and I'm just happy to drive it.
He'd take a lot more credit for that win if that power steering went out on lap 4 instead of 4 to go.
Yeah, I probably would. You're right.
So one last question for you. Hypothetical situation. Caution comes out. We're going to have a green-white checkers. Is it checkers or wreckers?
You feel stuck in a certain way, so it's hard to really stand on the gas and rip the top or a certain way. I felt good in 1 and 2, but I respect Dave a lot, but Knoxville Nationals, $150,000 to win. I've definitely been trying hard at it. I can promise you that.
Once again, that was Logan Schuchart, who finished second in the racing action last night at Knoxville Raceway in the 1S machine. I was a big fan of Logan, like I said, because he was kind of this grassroots, doing it the best way we could with the little budget that we had when I met him, and he's done a fantastic job getting that machine and that team and that operation up and getting the funding they need to really be competitive. He's won a couple of the World of Outlaw races, and now he's finished second in the Knoxville Nationals.
Well, and he's somebody we had on the show before, and he was fun to talk to then, and we were trying to figure out if that was like 4 years ago or 3 years ago, and he was we had him on as a lead-in to an I-80 World Outlaws race, so he's come a long way in a couple of years.
My last thought with David, we got to get to the break and back into turn 4, my last thought with Logan, I really do kind of hope that he's able to stick around. How many times has the Knoxville Nationals shown somebody that they can do it, and then the luck never worked out quite right, and they never got another opportunity? He got as close as second place to winning the biggest of the sprint car races. I would have loved to seen a caution with 5 to go and watch those two guys battle it out.
Well, everybody would have loved to see a caution last night with 5 to go, because that
Darren Pittman may have been your winner.
Yeah. And there's another one of your guys, like he said, that he's been there 17 A features, and this was by far his best showing. So
we sat down with David Gravel, who is your 2019 59th running of the NOS Energy Knoxville Nationals champion, and there was nothing else I could start off with other than sure made it look easy out there.
I mean, we had a great race car. We've had a great race car since Sunday, and it's one of those things. When you got a good car, it makes life so much easier, and we were able to get it done, get the lead, and control our own destiny, and went green and checkered that second half. So I don't know what to say, but it was an awesome night.
You've been here a couple of times. You've had success at this track, but never the success you've wanted, obviously, until tonight.
Yeah, I've always struggled Saturday night, always put myself in a good spot after my prelim night, but never had that top 5 run or in contention to win other than that year I was leading and blew up. So all I asked for was a chance, and if I got that chance, I was going to do everything I could not to let that go, and was able to get it done.
That last 25 laps after you guys came out, did you make any adjustments during that pit stop?
Yeah, we did. We tightened up a little bit, and definitely the car was better. I was a little loose early, and that made the car come to life for sure.
And then the lap traffic late when those dwindling laps, were you kind of starting to think in the back of your head, oh, God, here it goes?
I didn't know how close they were, and, man, there were some bad corners because those guys about spun out in front of me and nearly crashed, and luckily it worked out, man, and didn't wreck, didn't spin out, and kept the lead.
We're going to take a break. That was David Gravel, your 2019 Knoxville Nationals champion, $50,000 richer. We got to take a break. We'll be back.
$150,000.
Thank you. I forgot the.
And a man of a million words, let us tell you.
Yeah, we'll be back in turn 4 to wrap this baby up on the front stretch.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
Dan and Dirk are live for one last quarter. Give them a call now at 402-573-0590.
Thank you once again, everybody, for tuning in to the front stretch this morning, whether it be on AM 590, our home for the last, 8 years, 9 years, 25 years feels
What's
like
that?
sometimes. We've been doing the front stretch live on AM 590. And then on Facebook Live also.
Well, I've been around this is my 5th, so I was going to say I thought it was 2 years before me.
July of 2012 was the first show.
So
that was when they launched the original
7 years last month.
Incarnation. And once again, thank you to everybody for tuning in, and thanks a lot to everybody that supports the show, lets us do these kinds of things. We go to Knoxville, and coming up, our next trip's going to be down to Kansas City for the October race weekend. Next trip will be back here at Knoxville for the Late Model Nationals, and then we'll be heading over to Kansas Speedway for the October race weekend. And speaking of NASCAR, let's get you set for today's race at Michigan. Last time we were here, Kevin Harvick picked up the race win. Brad Keselowski came home second. Kyle Busch.
Gee, that's funny. They're starting first and second this time.
Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, and Ryan Blaney, your top 5. Kurt Busch, Eric Almirola, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, top 10. Bad days for William Byron, finished 36th. Jimmy Johnson finished 28th. Matt DiBenedetto, 24th. Hopefully he can pick it up. He's been doing good lately. They're really moving that 34 in the right direction.
You mean 95?
Yes, 95. Different team this year. So, and then we come, so that's today's race at Michigan, and all the coverage is on NBC and MRN starting at 1:30. If you don't have the TV service or you want to be around with your friends, you can always catch every lap of the NASCAR action on the big screens at Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs. Find them online, or find them on Facebook, Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs. Get all the specials and events that are going on, and make sure you go down and support the one of the few area bars that are supporting racing, and not just NASCAR. They have MAV TV they put up all the time, Lucas Oil TV when they have their specials, and they allow us to come down and do the viewing parties for the NASCAR races. And we're still kind of trying to figure out if we're going to do the Chili Bowl again this year. We're probably going to do it if they can get done before
2 days after they started.
1:30 in the morning, I think, or 12:30, 12:45 last time.
It was late. They stayed over, and I mean, they went above and beyond.
The only reason why they kicked us out is because a cleaning crew was coming in 20 minutes, and luckily the race had ended in time. So we're trying to get that figured out. That's the Michigan race today, again, on NBCSN and MRN at 1:30. And then we will come back next weekend. We're going to be live again. This time we'll be from the studio because we have 2 races coming up for NASCAR. The Bristol Saturday night race will be coming up this Saturday night. Coverage is on NBC and MRN. Make sure, let me double check that actually. Bristol, NBCSN and MRN. Looks like green flag waves about 6:30. Coverage of 5:30. Picks are due by 6 o'clock that night. We appreciate everybody tuning in and enjoying the front stretch. Thank you to everybody for listening to us live and throwing out comments, thoughts, and their opinions on the Knoxville Nationals on our Facebook live video. We can do it every single weekend, so make sure you join us next Sunday as Dirk and I will be live once again to recap the Saturday night race at Bristol.
But having to get up out of our own beds for a change.
Yes, we will be in the studio next Sunday, so you'll be able to call in and have a conversation with us. For Dirk Houston, I'm Dan Taylor. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much to Joe's Karting for presenting today's show on AM 590 ESPN Omaha.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs isn't just another wing joint. It's a great place for beers, bikes, classic cars, and amazing specials. Get to the Lube each Monday for Kids Night, where Kids Lube cruiser meals are just 99 cents with an adult entree. Each Tuesday, you can pound down all the wings you can handle for just $14.95 during all-you-can-eat wings. Wednesday is Bike Night, and Thursday is Classic Car Cruising. Follow them on Facebook at Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.